everybody, this is John Lamb, and this is Shakespeare Off the Shelf. Today, I want to talk with you about the phrase in folio. So you'll remember, or you won't, and I'm going to tell you, in the play Love's Labour's Lost, the character, the Spanish stereotype Don Armado, finds himself alone on stage, and he's in love, and he says, "Adieu, valor, rust, rapier, be still, drum, for your manager is in love. Yea, he loveth. Assist me, some extemporal god of rhyme, for I am sure I shall turn sonnet. Devise wit, write pen, for I am for whole volumes in folio." So the phrase in folio here means a lot, but first we have to step back and look and think about what Armado is saying. So basically he's saying goodbye, adieu, valor. He's saying goodbye to all those things that made him warlike and soldierly. And instead he's going to take up the activities of one who is in love. So he says, your manager, that is the one who used the drum and the rapier and valor, your manager is in love. And then he asks some god of rhyme, some god of extemporaneous, spontaneous rhyme to help him, because he now is going to write something, a love poem, a love letter. And he says, devise wit, devise meaning like come up with, invent, pen, write something. And then he says, I'm for whole volumes in folio. Now, what he means here is pretty conventional and pretty simple and straightforward, but it's really fun. Because what he means is he's going to become an author of books in folio. Now, if you Google this or listen a little longer, I can tell you that a folio refers to the format of a book. We refer to Shakespeare's first folio because it's a folio format. They would take the large sheet of paper, printers, and they would simply print in such a way that folding one time rather than multiple times would create a book. And that large book, that large format book, was known as a folio. Now that's in contrast to other size of formats like quarto. So a quarto is formed by taking that sheet of paper, folding it not once but twice so that you have a smaller book. So this is about the size a quarto would be. This is in fact a facsimile of the first quarto of Love's Labour's Lost. So when Armado says he's for whole volumes in folio, he's actually imagining a book this size. This is a facsimile of the first folio of Shakespeare. So a folio is a much bigger and wider book. And as you can imagine, folios were, in Shakespeare's time, much more expensive because larger, and there was a certain amount of prestige attached to those books. Not necessarily all the time, but certainly some of the time, folios had a certain amount of prestige attached. And it won't surprise you to know that people made frequent use of this. So when Armado said, that is to say, people made frequent reference to the fact that there were folio books and that they were expensive and often prestigious. So when Armado says that he's for whole volumes in folio, he's imagining himself becoming the kind of writer that has big books that are full of his writings. He's so filled with love and affection, in this case for the handmaiden Jaquenetta, that he is going to write whole volumes in folio. But here's what's really great about this. Armado, and by extension Shakespeare, was not by far the only writer to use this kind of format language to make, in this case, a joke, largely at Armado's expense. So format made possible this huge range of expressions on the way in which certain formats of books carry certain amounts of information. So it's almost like storage capacity. So a writer named Thomas Adams, and I'm just going to read a few examples here. Thomas Adams, he wrote, "A hypocrite's profession is in folio, but his sincerity is so abridged that it is contained in decimo sexto." That's a much smaller book size. Another guy named Thomas Culpeper claims that fame, quote, "registers virtues indeed in quarto, but splendid crimes are recorded in folio." Another guy named Nehemiah Rogers writes that actual sins committed by us are of 1,000 kinds, and every vice hath its latitude and degree. Some sins, are bound up in folio, others some in quarto, others in octavo, and the sins of some other in decimo sexto. In other words, each sinner sins a certain amount, and those sins can be figured by reference to the format of the book of sins in which they're recorded. So these format terms were so commonplace by the 17th century, that is to say, the 1600s, that these were references you could get all over the place. So, for example, a character in a play called Wit in a Constable, that's right, there was a play called that, complains that other characters were made but fools in quarto, but I find myself an ass in folio. The difference here between being made a fool and being made an ass is the same as the difference between the size of a quarto book, here's the quarto again, and a folio. So this extraordinary range of references to folios led to this incredibly rich and capacious culture of what I call the format imaginary. Now, if you want to read more about these things, you'll know that I'm just about to publish a book called How the World Became a Book in Shakespeare's England. There's a whole chapter about the size of books and how it came to signify in Shakespeare's culture. So check it out and listen for more on the channel. Bye.